Welcome to session 2 of Unit 310 about finance. Hopefully you've now uploaded your activity from the end of that last session, remembering that that's your assessment in this unit. And we're now going to go on in session 2 to examine the term value for money. Probably a term we all think we understand, but we'll examine it from a business perspective and just make sure we're all clear on what it means in different contexts. Okay then, aim for this session is to know how to deliver value for money, and the objectives are: explain the concept of value for money, describe how an organisation can achieve value for money when working with suppliers and customers, and describe how teams, departments within organisations can deliver value for money. So let's start by having a look at the term value for money. So, what is value for money? Is it about fastest, cheapest option that's good? I don't know, but it's not all about saving money. It's about ensuring that the business is efficient, effective, and economical. What's termed as the 3 E's. So efficiency is about a measure of productivity, how much you get out in relation to what you've put in, so in effort and resources. It's the efficiency of converting those resources, because they're the inputs, into results, which are outputs. Effectiveness is a measure of the impact of obtaining that value for money. It can be quantitative or it can be qualitative. So it can be about the amount of the effectiveness if it's quantitative, or it can be about the value of that effectiveness if it's qualitative. And then economical is about the price paid, the impact on people, as well as the actual money spent for providing a service that's best value, taking price and quality into account. And the term value for money can have lots of meanings and outcomes in differing situations, but the concept could be said to be defined as the most advantageous combination of cost, quality, and sustainability to meet the customer's requirements. And those customers could be people purchasing products from your business, or they could be about you purchasing raw materials for manufacturing for so the manufacturing department of a customer. It's still value for money. And in this context, cost means a consideration of the whole life cost, taking into account the initial capital cost, as well as any operational costs, any maintenance, any repair, any upgrades, and any eventual disposal cost. Quality means meeting a specification which is fit for purpose and sufficient to meet the customer's requirements. And sustainability means that it's economic, social, and environmentally beneficial, and it considers all those things based out in the business case which support the organisation's project goals and objectives. So it's about making sure that as an overall thing, it's a sustainable thing. And ensuring that you have an understanding of a value for money concept throughout the teams in an organisation encourages the optimal use of organisational resources to achieve objectives. It should be the aim of all in the organisation, all that work for it, to continually assess opportunities to enhance the services to customers and actively involve all employees and customers in achieving value for money. Should be continually looking at the best value for money in sourcing materials, the best materials at the best price, and always looking for ways to make the services offered or the process of producing products more efficient and effective. And finally, should be promoting a culture of do the right things and do things right, helping to ensure that services that are delivered or products that are produced are done efficiently, effectively, and economically. And alongside that, you need to be benchmarking against other similar products, organisations, services, suppliers as a minimum annually, really. But this is to analyse all areas of the business and identify the high performing, the low cost areas of the business. And this benchmarking exercise can help an organisation plan to target those areas that are low performing and high cost, to identify or implement best practice, change procedures and processes to achieve enhanced working methods, and to reduce unnecessary expenditure. And all this needs to be happening whether we're a public or a private organisation. If we're a private organisation, we have a duty to the owners and all the shareholders. But if we're a publicly funded organisation, there's a further statutory responsibility to achieve value for money, as the money is from the public purse and therefore taxpayers' money. But really, we all have a responsibility in any organisation to achieve value for money for all the stakeholders. The stakeholders are anyone who can be impacted by the business, so it could be shareholders, suppliers, bank, creditors, the local economy, and they will all suffer if we don't really achieve value for money, and ultimately will base their further actions, reactions, decisions on that. Because why would you loan more money, buy more shares, or support an organisation that you know is wasting money? So let's focus on some specific areas where we can make an effort to achieve value for money. When we're making purchases, for example, there are some key areas that we can consider as part of our purchasing processes, and this will help us ensure that we buy the right quality product in the right quantity, at the right time, for the right price, and from the right source. A lot of rights there to get right. These factors are important when we're considering that, so that we can ensure that we select the right value for money option, which delivers that optimum combination that we talked about before about economy, efficiency and effectiveness. And the things to consider are: consider purchasing from a current or contracted supplier. Does your organisation have a list of contracted suppliers, or sometimes referred to as preferred suppliers? Because using an already contracted supplier or preferred supplier will often deliver value for money solution. You already have a relationship, you know the service or quality from that supplier, you may get discounts, and when you need to make that purchase, you can check with that supplier and they're more likely to be there ready for you when you want to do something. Do you need to go to tender? Some organisations have a tendering process, particularly in the public sector. However, even in private business nowadays, a tendering process for procurement can make it clear and detailed. It can outline specific specifications for that purchase and make sure that you can justify what was decided on and how you're going to go about the process. Number 3 is all about thinking about it. So it's, how do I obtain value for money? Because thinking about it helps. It's important to apply some value for money principles to your evaluation of your sourcing decisions. Think about things such as the purchase price, the whole life cost. We've talked about that before. Is what you're purchasing functional? Does it have the right characteristics? Does it meet the technical merit? So has it got the specification to what you want? Is it fit for purpose? What is the quality? Are there any standards like ISO standards that need to be maintained? Is it compatible with other systems? People go out and rush and buy something because they think it's great and they find it doesn't really work with the other things they've got within their organisation. Consider the use of resources and whether it's going to require any additional resources. We think we've got something that's great and it's going to reduce costs, but then we find we have to buy something else to make it work and to make it fit in. What's the delivery time on the product? Is it going to meet our timescales? And what sort of after sales service or technical assistance are we going to get? All these things need to be considered when we're doing that sort of quickly, and that sort of question about, are we getting value for money? And there's more details on them in a handout. Number 4 is about conducting some sort of evaluation and preferably scoring it if you've been using a combination of factors or you've got a lot of options, because you'll need some sort of process to determine or justify your choices. Number 5 is about ensuring there's some sort of risk reduction brought into it. In obtaining value for money, it can include some risks. Suppliers' ability to meet timescales because you may have gone to a new supplier, specification is not right, financial stability of the supplier, are they just churning out value for money stuff and not going to be able to maintain it? Have they looked at their value for money? And then maintaining accurate records, because when you completed this, you need to be able to look back and evaluate and use this good practice for future purchases. Another specific area where we need to consider value for money is when working with customers. It's a slightly different approach, but we must also be looking at and considering value for money to improve the customer's value and therefore grow the business. And to do this, we can consider 5 factors. And the first, I think, is to understand what value means to customers, as it's not always the same as what you think. Engage with them, talk to them, surveys, questionnaires, meetings, and make some sort of note, capture data about their expectations and what is important to them and how you can meet that. The second is to understand properly your value proposition. So they say that the value received by the customers is equal to the benefits the product brings minus the cost to them. So what value does your product or service create for them? What does it cost them in terms of price plus any ownership costs or usage costs? So how much is it bringing to them? Thirdly, you need to identify the customers and segments where you can create more value relative to your customers, to your competitors. Because different customers will have different perceptions of the relative value from competitive products based on their demographics, their geographic position, for example. So what one finds really value, another one won't see the value. So you need to know which one is the best for you. Step 4 is about creating a win-win price, a price that it makes it clear to the customer that they're receiving value, but also maximizes your profit. Satisfied customers that perceive they're getting a lot of value from a product are often prepared to pay more, and vice versa. Finally, step 5, focus on your most valuable customers. By that, we're just talking about targeting those customers or segments that we talked about in step 3 that you can provide the best value to, the greatest value to, because those are the ones that are going to grow your business, and they're the ones that are going to be prepared to pay more for things, therefore increasing profits, building foundation for future growth. And it's a way of keeping your customers happy, but also increasing profits. So 2 key areas where value for money can really come in, that's purchasing and working with customers. But at a team level, we need to be thinking along the lines of how teams can source and implement solutions which achieve the best mix of quality and effectiveness for the least outlay. To do that, we need to be aware of the processes and the evidence available within the organisation, so stuff we have internally to make decisions about the way we work to achieve best value for money. So we need to be aware of things that, like the list that's on the screen. Do we have procurement processes, or what is our process for procurement? Do we have things like a preferred or contracted suppliers list? Is there evidence of previous procurement that we can use to look at? Do we make the use of best practice and lessons learned? Do we have the knowledge and details of other processes, projects, departments, teams, or are we working in our own silos? So these are just a few things that we need to think about as we move forward. And we also need to be thinking about trying to work collaboratively across teams to maximise value for money. Where we're working on the same linked organisational goals or objectives, we can be saving time and resources. And 2 key principles that we can use to assist that are transparency. The more open you are about your team's work and the resources, the more others can benefit, or you could benefit from them. If teams share processes, information, and the potential ideas and areas around collaborative use, supply of services, resources can be identified, and you can evaluate it, and this could lead to improvements and value for money. It's about joined up thinking. Do not see the program or the role that you're filling and its outcomes and any commissioning or anything that goes along with it in isolation. It's often inefficient for departments, teams, organisations, or individuals to have different arrangements, different funding, different budgets when they're working on the same policies or in the same topical area or geographical area. Your programme may achieve more if it recognises its outcomes may be shared with others, and they may be complementary to what other departments are working on. So we need to make sure we're seeking this and seeing this information again, not working in silos, and where opportunities to achieve value for money exist, transparency and joined up thinking are key to making them happen. And opportunities can exist to improve value for money in all areas of the business cycle. For economy, at the input, ensuring value for money, what goes in, purchases, the right price, the right quality, the right time, the right source, sharing inputs through efficiencies. As we've already said, it's about how much you're getting out in relation to what you're putting in. Is it worth it? Could it be more efficient? And then the effectiveness, the impact of the above, really. So qualitative, is it better, or quantitative, are we producing more, has it worked? So throughout the process we should all be getting involved in it. And there's lots of examples, and it depends on the company, and you'll be asked to look at this in your activity at the end of this session. But here's some examples. We've got joint purchasing, combining larger orders to get cost reductions, sharing or scheduling resources, equipment, facilities being shared so they're not just left not in use, sharing customer information and feedback, aligning planned cost with usage. So sometimes we're paying for lots of essential services, I don't know, telecommunications, storage, bookkeeping, maybe legal support. We may be paying for them in annual plans and we're not using them to their fullest capacity. Sharing back office functions is a common one we hear about when people are trying to make cost savings, but it can bring value for money. And increasing quality, slowing for example, what I mean is by slowing production sometimes to cut out mistakes. We may think it's great to rush it all through, but if we're making lots of mistakes and things are having to be redone, then it's not necessarily value for money. Right then, that's bringing this session on value to money to a close. Before we do an activity, just a quick recap. So we talked about knowing how to deliver value for money. We said the objectives would be to explain the concept of value for money, describe how an organisation can achieve value for money when working with suppliers and customers, and then describe how teams, departments within organisations can deliver value for money. So let's have a look at the activity. Right then. Activity again, reminder that this is your assessment of your knowledge, so your assessor will be looking at this to decide whether you've proved that you've got sufficient knowledge and understanding in this area to pass the unit. It comes in 3 parts. The first part is to explain the concept of value for money. Now, we've talked about it from the beginning to the end. It's not just about explaining the term, about defining the term, it's about explaining what it means, so you'll need to go into some detail. The second is to describe how an organisation can achieve value for money when working with both suppliers and customers, and we talked about those 2 processes separately, and there's some resources about that. And then thirdly, part 3, you're asked to describe how teams, departments within an organisation can deliver value for money, and you need to give at least 2 examples, and the activity asks you to start thinking about your organisation. So it could be things you've seen done in your organisation to improve value for money, or things that you think could be done in your organisation to get value for money. So think about what we've said and look at your organisation, and remember you will need to do some further research in that area, I'm sure, to find those things and to think about them. So it gives you a chance to think about it. And you can also start at this point looking at the evidence guidance for the performance part of this unit, because you may be able to use those examples as part of your performance evidence. So look at the evidence guidance sheet and the resources as well. Upload that, and then we can move on to the next session.